Prehistoric Planet will start airing in a few days. I plan on covering each episode as it releases next week, so next week is going to be a very busy week. But because that's such a big deal to me, I've dubbed next week Ice Age Week. We are only going to be doing Cenozoic centered videos next week, which I don't have a lot planned right now, but we're mostly going to be focusing on Prehistoric Planet. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to dive into it. But this week, I kind of want to wrap things up with a kind of like a little bit of a yap video. Like I'm just going to be talking. I don't have a script or anything. I just want to talk. I want to get my thoughts out there. I've been thinking a lot about how dinosaurs are portrayed, or prehistoric animals in general. And my thought recently is that there's this huge idea that dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals were basically the Earth's version of actual movie monsters. Like they would just walk around and, just get into fights all the time. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why that is because that's how they're often portrayed in movies, shows, and documentaries. Think about most of the documentaries that have aired in between Walking with Dinosaurs and now Prehistoric Planet Ice Age. Most of them probably have a huge emphasis on the dinosaur fights and dinosaur hunting, because that's the exciting part about these animals. It's exciting to see T-Rex get into a fight with Triceratops. It's exciting to see Dinosaurus fight a Tarbosaurus. Those are really cool things that we love to see. And obviously, animal fights do occur. They occur all the time in nature. But one thing that I think is lost when you only focus on that is the rest of their life. Animals don't only fight. That's not the only thing that they do. Animals do all kinds of different things, some things that might be considered boring or mundane to the average viewer, but very much did happen. And I think it's important to show those sides. I've noticed a lot of documentaries nowadays have been practicing that, like actual nature documentaries have been practicing that a little bit more. I think that more documentaries have been showing the hunts that fail. They've been showing just regular leisure time that animals often do. They don't just show the exciting bits. And the same hopefully will be true with dinosaurs and other extinct animals. And I'm hoping that most of that will be true because of documentaries like Prehistoric Planet. I think that documentaries like that are so incredibly important for everybody's understanding of how these animals operated. The unfortunate part, though, is that most of these documentaries are based off of speculation. We don't know the majority of dinosaur behaviors. There's some pieces of evidence in the fossil record, but that's incredibly limited. So yeah, there's a lot of times that you have to speculate or just make comparisons with modern day animals. But regardless, even if it's not 100% accurate, I still think it's really important to paint these animals in that light. The original Walking with Dinosaurs did this. Like, it wasn't just dinosaur fights. It wasn't just hunting all the time. There was a fair share amount of that, but that wasn't the only focus. And the same can be said for the later sequels that released. Even the most recent Walking with Dinosaurs did that. Like, there was this great scene of the Spinosaurus and Carcharodontosaurus sizing each other up, and no one fights. That's great. That shows a realistic view of nature and animals that actually existed. Most animals don't really want to get into a fight. If they can help it, they'll probably avoid it. That's not to say it never happens. I'm not speaking in absolutes here, but it's just a little bit more rare than you would probably expect. And so if we show dinosaurs doing a little bit more than just clawing each other or just biting each other, then the perception of how dinosaurs acted might be a little bit more animal-like. And again, to kind of like sound like a broken record, I think that's something that Prehistoric Planet did very well. There's a lot of great moments that you don't typically see in dinosaur media. Heck, one of the first things that we see is a T-Rex swimming. Like, that's actually the main photo that they use to promote this show. That's not a behavior that you often see T-Rex do in any form of media, but it's likely something that it could do. Already, we set the standard pretty high by showing you, yeah, you're going to see a different side to dinosaurs here. And that doesn't just go for T-Rex. We see other dinosaurs throughout the whole documentary doing things that you probably don't typically see them do. There's a bunch of Tarbosaurs just sleeping after a meal, while a velociraptor is just catching some lizards nearby. Dinosaurus is present in this documentary, and Dinosaurus is this huge theropod, this huge ornithomimosaur with massive claws. Most documentaries would show them putting those claws to good use, and Prehistoric Planet does, just in a different way, to scratch an itch, because there's a lot of bugs bugging it, it's itchy. It even goes up to a tree to find a scratch, and that's the only time we see Dinosaurus. We don't see it go up against a Tarbosaurus or any other dinosaur that could potentially try to challenge it. No, we just see it trying to do that. Or baby therizinosaurs trying to get some honey. And even if we do see fights in this, they're not the usual take on them. One of my favorite moments is the T-Rex versus the Quetzalcoatlus scene. I like that one because, I mean, Quetzalcoatlus is a giraffe-sized pterosaur. That is a big animal. Even a Tyrannosaurus Rex would probably be wary against one, but especially against two, because again, there is still chance of injury. And dinosaurs, they were animals, and animals are not dumb. So it's cool that it held its own for a little bit, but I'm glad that it eventually just kind of like, you know what? I'm gone. That's a great way to portray the tyrant reptile king, you know, showing that it's not an invincible animal. And the examples go on and on. I mean, in the second season, we even get to see a bunch of sauropods taking a little bit of a mud bath. We get to see Carnotaurus dancing to try to, you know, attract a mate. We don't see it hunt or anything like that. All of these dinosaurs that when they're on screen, it's to do something that is epic or, you know, bloody or something like that. But instead, they're doing something else. They're doing anything else but that. And that is just incredibly amazing and something that I think we need to emphasize a little bit more with future documentaries. You can have dinosaur fights, you can have dinosaur hunting sessions. You know, obviously, the first two seasons did have that, but don't make it your focus. Don't make it your main driving point. Just try to show these dinosaurs as animals, and then more people will probably see them as animals. I mean, obviously, a lot of this is kind of like the all yesterdays method. Like I mentioned before, a lot of prehistoric, it focused right when I pulled it away. A lot of prehistoric planet focused on speculation. All yesterday, it's based on speculation. I mean, the description or the header even says unique and speculative views of dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals. On the cover, you have a trio of protoceratops climbing a tree. You don't usually see them do stuff like that. And this book is chock full of all kinds of examples like that. Like here's a little bit of a moment where a little Camptosaurus comes up to an Allosaurus and the Allosaurus is just watching it. Sometimes that does happen in nature. Sometimes a prey item will come up to a predator and the predator doesn't even touch it. Or this Camarasaurus going in for a little bit of a mud bath, like how we saw those sauropods in Prehistoric Planet 2. That's a great way to showcase these animals, you know? And I think that's what Prehistoric Planet Ice Age is going to do. I think a lot of what we're going to see happen here is going to be relatively mundane. It's not going to be, you know, all epic things happening all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if sometimes some of these animals that are showcased do relatively nothing. And that is amazing to me. Let me also just add to this before I wrap the video up. I'm really glad we're getting a documentary like Prehistoric Planet. There's not a lot of Ice Age documentaries out there. Well, scratch that. There's not a lot of diverse Ice Age documentaries out there. There's quite a few out there, but most of them, their focus is on mammoths or saber-toothed cats sometimes. Uh, Walking with Beasts did a great job at showing the diversity of the Cenozoic in general, and Prehistoric Planet is certainly going to do that too. I think we're mostly confined to the Pleistocene here because, I mean, the Pleistocene is when the Ice Age started, so that makes sense. But we're seeing so many different animals that you don't typically see on screen, and I am so excited for that. More animals get the chance to showcase how weird and wacky and amazing they are, and some of them went extinct so recently that we could have seen them, but they just went extinct before we had the chance, like the moa. So our best way to look at it is through CGI like this, like amazing CGI, but CGI nonetheless. So I think that this series is incredibly important. I think it helps emphasize the fact that these are animals and they need to be portrayed as animals more so than anything else. Walking with Dinosaurs again started that trend all the way back then, and its sequels did a fairly decent job. But most documentaries that we've seen really lean into the awesome side of dinosaurs, the fights and all of that. And I think a lot of that can be reflected in how a lot of people talk about dinosaurs today. You know, I do get a lot of comments on TikTok and everything about dinosaurs, and a lot of those comments are who would win in a fight or which dinosaur is, you know, stronger or something like that. And I don't usually like answering questions like that, but they do happen. And I think a lot of that is because of how dinosaurs have often been portrayed. So, Prehistoric Planet is an amazing documentary that certainly needs to be seen. And I think that will continue to be true with Prehistoric Planet Ice Age. So, that's pretty much all I have for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for putting up for my little bit of a ramble video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait for Prehistoric Planet Ice Age. I think it's going to be an amazing documentary. Stay tuned for some content that will link up to that next week. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have an awesome day.